Today, cryptocurrencies tumble as Trump's tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China take effect. The SEC says it will hold roundtables to develop a regulatory framework for crypto. And Kraken's Jachym discusses the SEC's decision to drop its case against the crypto exchange. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Tanea McKeel. Crypto markets turning lower this morning as investors gauge the macroeconomic impact of President Trump's new tariffs and what his recent announcement of a strategic crypto reserve really means for cryptocurrencies. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin fell more than 7.25% to $83,000. Ether tumbled 10%, trading at one point at its lowest level since November of 2023, and XRP dropped 8.5%. That being said, prices are moving quickly, so be sure to check out the latest over at CNBC.com. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. The tech and crypto communities are split on President Trump's approach to a U.S. crypto reserve, specifically his involvement of Ripple, Solana, Cardano, and even Ether. After Trump's Sunday post on Truth Social about the reserve, Palantir co-founder Joe Lonsdale posted on X saying it was wrong to use his taxes for, quote, crypto bro schemes. Then he joined Squawk Box this morning and criticized this approach, citing potential for volatility.
I personally don't think the government should be picking winners and losers. I don't think you should be putting up online certain coins that are all of a sudden going to shoot up 25% and people can trade that and stuff. To me, that's not the right way to do it.
We should note crypto and AI czar David Sachs responded to Lonsdale's X post, telling him to wait and see what was actually being proposed. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong also weighed in on the reserve, saying it would probably be best to include just Bitcoin. He said it would be the simplest option and called it a clear story as successor to gold. Tyler Winklevoss, who was a major backer of President Trump on his campaign, said many of the altcoins are listed on his exchange, Gemini, but the only digital asset that would meet the standard for a reserve would be Bitcoin. CNBC reached out to the White House for comment but didn't hear back immediately. Next, the International Monetary Fund is extending a loan arrangement with El Salvador, but wants the country to pause public sector purchases of Bitcoin. In a report published on Monday, the IMF extended a $1.4 billion loan to the country through a 40-month extension agreement. And as part of an economic assessment of El Salvador, the organization looked directly at the country's Bitcoin exposure. The report said crypto had the potential to threaten macroeconomic stability and raise financial risks under widespread adoption, but that El Salvador's risks had been contained due to limited adoption. The IMF also pointed to reforms put in place by El Salvador to make Bitcoin use voluntary and remove acceptance of Bitcoin for tax payments. Still, the IMF's benchmarks for the performance of the country's loan would go further. The organization would monitor El Salvador's Bitcoin holdings to ensure no voluntary accumulation of Bitcoin by the public sector. That includes in the region's Chivo wallet or through the National Bitcoin Office. Finally, the SEC's newly formed Crypto Task will host a series of roundtables to develop a regulatory framework for digital assets. The first discussion will take place March 21st and will be available to the public. The initial session is titled How We Got Here and How We Got Out, Defining Security Status. The industry largely disagreed with the agency's broad categorization of most cryptocurrencies as securities under previous leadership. In this latest Trump administration, the agency has ended lawsuits and investigations on numerous Web3 firms. Just yesterday, we learned from NFT creator Yuga Labs that the agency closed its investigation on the company. All right, sticking with the SEC's shakeup for our main story, we also learned yesterday that the agency ended its lawsuit against crypto exchange Kraken. The legal action was brought in November 2023 when the agency accused Kraken of operating as an unregistered securities broker and commingling customer funds with its own. Crypto World's Mackenzie Sagalos yesterday spoke with the firm's global head of policy and government relations about the SEC's decision to drop the case. We also asked for his reaction on Trump's strategic crypto reserve.
So you just announced that the SEC has agreed in principle to drop its lawsuit against Kraken. This is, of course, following a string of other crypto-linked lawsuits being dismissed. What did those conversations look like with the agency to reach this result?
Mackenzie, thanks for having us on today. It's great to see you. Look, we're incredibly excited to see a conclusion on the horizon. We've stood by our conviction that this case was brought without merit. And we look forward to getting on with good policymaking. In terms of the path forward, we've already seen the Crypto Task Force announce, a host of new initiatives to get insight into what that looks like in the United States.
Now, there were other concerns brought into this lawsuit beyond failing to register. The SEC claimed that Kraken commingled crypto and customer funds, which is different from other crypto lawsuits dismissed by the agency. You argued at the outset of this legal battle that the agency did not have evidence of missing customer funds. But were any of those concerns brought by the SEC addressed in order to get this lawsuit dropped?
We've stood by our conviction again that Kraken has been around for 13 years and takes customer asset protection very seriously, which has made us not only the world's most liquid platform, but one of the most trusted platforms. And we've held customer asset protection as a core pillar of our business, throughout our history.
But were any concessions made as part of this arrangement to bring it to a conclusion?
Not that I'm aware of. And, I think we're going to continue to work with the SEC to bring that case to a conclusion. I think what's more important from our standpoint is that, Congress moves forward with market structure legislation to create a level playing field for all platforms, centralized intermediaries that operate in the U.S., including those that today don't hold themselves to the same high standards that Kraken has employed through our existence.
Now, the other news we're tracking is this announcement from President Trump that the U.S. will move forward with plans to create a strategic crypto reserve or stockpile housing a number of digital currencies. And I want your reaction to that news and what, if anything, it means for Kraken.
Look, we're encouraged to see that announcement. I think that's, a reflection of the president and this administration staying true to commitments that they announced, early last year. I think we saw, in the summer of last year, we've seen leadership from even the Senate, Senator Lummis, who now chairs the Digital Asset Subcommittee, announce a similar initiative for Congress. So, we look forward to that moving forward. I think it's going to reflect, crypto as an asset class, coming into the mainstream. We've already seen that with index-linked products. Our business, CF Benchmarks, which is the world's leading index provider, which powers most of the exchange-traded products here in the U.S. and other markets, has really grown. And we think the strategic reserve is another reflection of traditional market allocation into crypto as an asset class.
Now, we'll have to, of course, wait and see how this potential reserve comes about and whether Congress needs to weigh in. You've been speaking with Congress on a separate issue around debanking. You've testified twice now. What have those conversations looked like, and how receptive have they been on both sides of the aisle?
Well, we've seen immense momentum, bipartisan momentum, over the last several congressional cycles, including last year. So, that type of nonpartisan cooperation is not new. We're really encouraged to see it accelerating. We're most focused on the market structure legislation, which would put very basic foundations in place to regulate centralized intermediaries like Kraken, and again, create a level playing field that would encourage responsible innovation in our markets, market integrity rules, customer protection rules, that would level the playing field to encourage responsible investment and growth here in the United States. We've also seen a number of other major jurisdictions already take this basic first step. If you look around the world at major G10, G20 markets, there's a lot of issues to study, but we believe Congress and the administration can act decisively to get a bill done this year.
And are you talking with lawmakers about potential regulation, whether it's a stablecoin bill or something more focused on an overarching crypto market infrastructure bill?
Again, our focus has been around the basic foundational step of bringing centralized intermediaries and centralized platforms, which is what the market structure legislation is intended to do. Again, this would rationalize jurisdiction between the SEC and the CFTC, and would again create a very level playing field that would allow companies like Kraken that play an important centralized role in the markets to come in with regulatory clarity, register, and move forward with good policymaking in the United States.
Are you going to be at the first ever White House Crypto Summit on Friday?
Well, Kraken hopes to get an invitation. We'd be honored to join. I don't think those have been announced yet. But again, we're encouraged to see the announcement of the president's working group. We think it's an important shift in policy, especially as we've seen other major markets around the world already take that first step. So This is happening quickly with both the administration, again, the SEC's crypto task force moving quickly. We believe that acceleration is important for the United States to catch up with other markets that have been well ahead.
And speaking of that working group, Bo Hines is overseeing a mix of delegates. So it sounds as though you've got members of Treasury, Justice, CFTC, SEC, leaders from the industry as well. Has anyone from Kraken been invited to be a part of that working group?
Again, those invitations haven't been made public yet, but we've certainly engaged all the relevant stakeholders here. We're focused on market structure, but crypto policy cuts across every segment of financial services policy in the United States, whether it's AML, illicit finance, tax, banking, prudential regulations, market regulations. So it's really important, and we think it's been incredibly important for the administration to bring all of these stakeholders together in one place to ensure a very comprehensive, coherent approach here in the United States.
Last question for you. This idea of having a pro-crypto administration means different things to different people. I feel that point was brought to bear this weekend as there were very different reactions to this crypto reserve. Some people disappointed that it wasn't purely Bitcoin, that you had some of these other altcoins that were regarded as more speculative in nature, that trade more like tech stocks. To you, what is a pro-crypto next step from the administration? Because markets are really waiting for that next big catalyst. And some people say that would be the announcement of a Bitcoin or a wider crypto purchasing strategy from the White House. But what does that mean to you and your team?
Well, look, again, Kraken's role in the markets is to act as a safe, trusted, centralized intermediary. Today, most of the transactions in the markets, we've hit over 3.5 trillion in these markets in recent weeks, is putting the foundational rules in place to allow responsible participation. And we think Congress accelerating, building on the many years of strong work is the most important first step to encourage and empower future investment and growth in these markets in the U.S.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.